나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교 나무 묘호랭개교. Hello, friends. Thank you for being here. I hope that you're well and safe. I wanted to start out today by talking about, we're going to get to the MulaMadhyamakaKarika and continue on this fascinating verses of Nietzsche, Nagarjuna. But I wondered if you'd indulge me for a few moments to talk about how this school has come about and maybe put a bug in the ear of somebody out there who's listening to this channel. Back in the 80s, I was fully engrossed in my artistic career. And I had been a disc jockey, a weekend disc jockey, as well as a broadcast disc jockey. And I had this vision, this idea of a sort of what I used to call an incubator of sorts, where I'd have a large Quonset hut, say, some kind of space, where I could freely roam around and work on my large canvases, and a radio station kind of booth in the middle or off to one side, where I would play the variety of musics I like, from jazz to alternative to all sorts of music. Admittedly, not a lot of classical. But motivational, mind occupying music, so I could lose myself in the flow of painting, right? I'm a painter. But I'm also a bit of a philosopher, and, study of Buddhism works right into that whole milieu. Anyway, the idea was to have this place with a lounge set up where people could hang out and watch me paint or talk to me, or where I could just arbitrarily sit down and just have a deep conversation about whatever, whether it be painting or society or politics or whatever, and occasionally spend an hour or two in the DJ booth talking to a larger audience and playing music, and then somehow all of this would be captured on video and could be once a week edited down to a show that we could upload to a local what is it, VHF station, public station, to be broadcast as a show on public airwaves. This was long before internet, long before YouTube, to put some environment of catalyst for deep thinking, creative interchanges. Guests come and sit in the lounge and we have interviews, talks, whatever. Anyway, that was, without going into it further, you get the idea, I think. When we found this property here in Shannon, Mississippi, that was in California. Now we're in Mississippi. The idea that I had had since the late 90s into the 2000s was a kind of a center, a retreat, if you will, where there'd be a house, a school, and then yurts interspersed on the property, maybe 5, half a dozen, no more than that. A small temporary community, if you will, of like-minded people looking to practice Buddhism, and also Tai Chi Chuan and Qigong, and be able to roam and walk around the property. It's hilly and bucolic here, and maybe have campfires occasionally where we have just open chats in the evening, especially during the summers. But also retreats where maybe you're a writer and you just want to spend more time in a small little cabin on a safe piece of property surrounded by Buddhists. Maybe you're a Buddhist, maybe you participate every now and again, but you spend most time in your cabin writing, fine. And, kind of have these temporary rentals, like a week rental, a month-long rental. And hopefully out of that experience, cull some particular people who are looking to make this practice of Buddhism their life. Not a monastery life, but a retreat kind of location life where they're not, discouraged from going into town or anything, but they have a home base where it's simple living, and they can practice. Maybe there's a communal garden, that kind of a thing. I don't want to say commune because that's not really what I want. Communes get cultish, you know what I mean? I just want free individuals in a safe place practicing Buddhism that I could instruct with whatever wisdom that I can share, and ultimately look for someone or some ones, if I was lucky enough, who might want to take over this aspect of the retreat when I'm gone, because that day is coming. And it would be very hard for me to let go of the reins. It would take me passing away, I think. But it would be nice to have the confidence that there was at least one or two individuals who would slide into this position and maintain the dream of having this retreat of like-minded Buddhists. Of course, it's a wonderful dream, but then the specter of money always creeps into it, right? And I haven't held a job since the last century. So my only means of support is generosity from Miss Sandra, who owns this property. She appreciates my company, the security of having someone around who's so multifaceted and simply another human, so she's not alone out here. But for that, I get a tremendous amount. The residency of this land, the sharing of expenses, with my meager input, she is quite the benefactor. So, having said that, of course, anyone that would come here and set up a yurt to belong here for a while would certainly have to be in a way appreciative of Miss Sandra and meet with her approvals if any is required. But more to the point is, I've really stopped talking about it because I'm one of those who likes to be able to do everything himself, so I don't feel beholden to anyone. By the same token, anyone who would come here and help that dream to fruition, one yurt at a time, would be somebody who would have the financial support to be able to, with my input, of course, create a deck, build a yurt on it, to create a place where they could live comfortably in order that they pursue this life. Now, as I'm saying those sentences, I'm looking at the set of people to whom I might be speaking greatly reducing. And there may be none of you, maybe many of you who would go, wow, that would be super cool and super great, but not in a position to actually help bring it about. But I'm saying it out loud to all of you because maybe somebody, one of you in Australia right now, or one of you in the UK, who's just been looking for an opportunity. Where could I go? Where could I find a place? And you understand, I'm not looking for somebody who's saying, I'd like to go live in a monastery for 6 months just to have that experience in my belt. That's not going to work. Because I need somebody with the wealth fortune, the wherewithal, who's more of an explorer instead of an experiencer, who really wants to set down some roots, because you're going to be spending lots of money to build a deck, build a yurt, possibly find a way to get electricity to it. Maybe you set up solar. I have solar on the Quoon, but it's not complete. I can't afford the batteries, so I'm kind of grid tied, and that's not fully satisfying. But I would encourage anyone who would be in the place where they could do that, build a yurt and so forth, to build their own solar, as long as it's not an eyesore, to do it well. I would invest a lot of time into that person and their practice. And but you see, we're humans. It's a difficult thing to find the right fit. But it would be interesting nonetheless. So I thought I would just share my pet dream that has really helped a lot to bring this about, because it's always in my mind. So somehow, by age, I'm going to be 65 next September, I've managed to find a property, a soulmate, a support, and a donation that built this building, continuing to paint, have a school, have nice property, rolling hills, a little pond. Man, the vision is manifesting. Do I complete it in this lifetime? I don't know. I don't know how important that is, but the vision is always in my mind. And so when I talk to you in these videos, to me, to my way of thinking, I am still working the vision. And in a way, I've achieved it, because with all of you out there, all over the world, from the UK to Australia, Vietnam to China to Canada and South America, I think I even have, I'm sure I have listeners or watchers in Hawaii, but whether or not they're part of the channel or not, I can't say. Even Russia. I know in I'm going to get the name wrong here. Estonia. So yeah, I mean, we're international. So in a way, electronically, the vision is coming about, right? So that's very satisfying. And that may be where it grows. It doesn't have to be here. It doesn't have to be with yurts and so forth. But anyway, I just thought I'd share it. So, enough blah, blah, blah. Took up 13 minutes of the... I appreciate your indulgence. So now we're starting a new chapter in this book, an analysis of the ayatanas. Okay. So, how are they defined? That's an index. I don't want that. Do you have a glossary? About the translators. No glossary, I'm afraid. All right. The Ayatana classification is one of three systems for classifying existing things that the Buddha employed in presenting his teachings about the nature of reality. This doctrine divides all existence, we are existence, right? Wish they'd used a different word. It's very confusing. Into 12 basic kinds consisting of 6 sense faculties and their respective objects: vision, the visible, color, shape. Sixth sense is the inner sense known as mind, manas, which has well, we know the 9 consciousnesses, so we don't need to read this. It's a little more limited than the 9 consciousness, because at that time they really hadn't considered all of them. But certainly the 6 sense fields, we're familiar with that. That's the 6 worlds, right? The world, well, it's not the 6 worlds, I apologize. Because it's not hell, hunger, animality, those. The 6 senses are the 6 first consciousnesses that instantiate or materialize through name and form into being. The eye consciousness, the vision consciousness, the hearing, the taste, the feeling, right? Touch. The aim of this chapter is to refute the view that these things are ultimately real. So here we go again about emptiness. Yes, there's this tremendous process of energy, work, karma, accumulating, amalgamating, in order to sense what it conceives in the moment of experience. How do I experience color, shape, sound? I have to create a mechanism by which to experience those things. And that is a consciousness that leads to a sense in order to instantiate what the consciousness wishes to perceive, to create an apparatus by which that perception can occur. But the apparatus is incidental. And this is a fundamental aspect of Nagarjuna's emptiness. Because you and I in samsara, to us, fingers, feet, body, eyes, they're permanent things. Or at least they endure for a lifetime. So we have an apparatus to be able to experience and sort through these various consciousnesses. But the fact that Nagarjuna wants to nail down is that just because we have a samsaric apparatus does not mean that we own or possess an enduring eye consciousness, ear consciousness, mind consciousness. The mind of, how did he put it here? The sixth sense, the inner sense known as mind, the samsaric mind, the inner sense, the experiencer of the cognitions, if you will. So what he's going to take apart now in these verses is that if you try to identify this vision sense, this consciousness, it's not there. It's an energetic process of moment to moment, point, instantiation. It appears to be, but in fact it is not being. It is you, the samsaric interpreter, as you endure for a short time, who perceives. But these are not, in fact, things. They are energies providing sense fields for you to experience, and as soon as it's experienced, it's no longer there. The experience is the whole game here. And so if you understand that you can't hold on to joy or excitement, I shouldn't say joy because we use joy, see, words are tricky here. We use joy to describe the experience of Buddha mind, right? But the fact of the matter is, Buddha mind is also dot, 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 not dot, 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 point, 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 point. Aha, caught you, caught me. Anyway. So this is all a swipe of energy. It's kind of looking, there's no really good analogies, but if you've ever seen the Northern Lights, and it's not that bad of an analogy because, you know, we know that the Northern Lights are material in our atmosphere reflecting solar wind. But you can't point to the Northern Lights and say they're a thing. They're a momentary, ever-changing perception of what's going on up there. But you can't make a northern light. Does that make sense? It's the same kind of thinking as when you're looking out at the stars at night and you see them all as the stars that exist, but in fact, many of them, perhaps most of them, no longer exists. What we're seeing is light that's been traveling from them since millions of years ago, hundreds of thousands of years ago, billions of years ago, all the way to the age of this universe that we perceive. That's not the universe. It's just what we perceive, because there's a limit to what we can see in the sky, because at some point the universe, the galaxies, the stars, the stuff of the universe is so far away that the light from it never reaches us. It's moving away faster than its light can reach us. This is where we start talking about beyond the speed of light. There's beyond the speed of light? Yes, there is. Everything is referential. Remember relativity, right? Anyway, all of that is to get you in the mind space to understand that everything we're experiencing is a point-to-point, ephemeral. To say it's impermanent is to imply that it exists. What Nagarjuna wants to point out is that's not completely right, because it never really exists. We're just seeing effects of it. So you could say an effect is an instantiation, as I do with language, but understand that instantiation is not thingness. We thingify it. But it is just a spark, a luminous moment. Our experiencing of it is the reason we're here in samsara. And so with that understanding, through our Buddha mind, we can be completely enthralled with it without feeling emotionally bonded, attached to it, because we understand that it is already past us by the time our samsaric mind sorts it out. Maybe that makes more sense. So here we go. Statement of the Abhidharma doctrine that there exist sense faculties and sense fields. So this is the author's listing of the logic tree that these verses go through. Second, the argument for the claim that the faculty of vision does not see visible things. Does that make sense? In line with what I was saying, because we, with our samsaric brain and our samsaric mind, have learned how to discern and thingify an experience, does not make the experience a thing. It's just a process that we're going through. This illusion of samsara exists solely for recording knowledge and remembrance. The remembrance is simply that moment and reanalyzing it thousands of times to make something out of it. But it's long gone. The argument for the claim that the faculty of vision does not see visible things. The vision happens in here. The thing, which is only a manifestation of these energies, is already gone. All that thingifying is happening here. Third, reply to an objection to this argument. So there's an objector. Refutation of the existence of the faculty of vision, refutation of the existence of the seer and the field of the visible, consequences of the non-existence of the faculty of vision and the field of the visible, and the generalization of the argument to the other sense faculties and fields. So there's that word fields. We have to get used to the idea that all matter, materiality, is not a particular thing, but an environment in which thingness can be perceived, but the perception is the thingifying, because the thing never existed. It didn't come into being, it doesn't reside, and it doesn't decay. It's simply a facility. Words are tough with this. Oh, can't get enough coffee today. All right, so let's get into it. 1. Vision, hearing, taste, smell, touch, and the inner sense are the 6 faculties. The visible and so on are their fields. So the faculties are our samsaric brain and mind to discern an experience. Not a thing, an experience. Those are the faculties we have. And the fields in which those things can occur, those fields can occur, are not things. They are not things we own or possess. We simply have a faculty to detect them. In no way does vision see itself. Do you see? Nagarjuna constantly does this. Vision doesn't vision. It's a brilliant way to negate our thingifying, right? In no way does vision see itself. If vision does not see itself, how will it see what is other? In other words, to distinguish something without consciously trying to distinguish anything is to also distinguish that which it is not. If you want to distinguish a clear glass cup of water, you can do so because everything around the glass and around that water in the glass is not the glass and is not the water. Take that clear glass of water and walk into a body of water, a lake, an ocean, and then let go the glass, and what do you see? You can't distinguish the glass or the water from the environment you're in. Therefore, there is no glass of water. But wait. Right? It's that kind of an argument. The glass cannot see itself. The water in the glass can't see itself. And the idea of glass of water is it's a virtual reality constructed by identifying the glass and the water in the glass as separate from that which is around the water and the glass. You can't identify something as a thing without also implying what it is not. You get it. Reply to implicit objection. But there is a glass and there is water in it. The example of fire is not adequate for the establishment of vision. Indeed, that together with vision is refuted by the analysis in chapter 2 of the presently being traversed, the traversed, and the not yet traversed. I missed something here for you. To this argument, we are to imagine the opponent raises an objection, the principle of irreflexivity, that an entity cannot operate on itself, does not hold, since there are counter-examples. A fire, while burning, is fuel, also burns itself. Hence, it has not been proven that vision does not see itself. That's a weak argument. Anyway, so there's a response to it. When there is no vision whatsoever in the absence of seeing, how can it be right to say vision sees? Vision does not see, nor does non-vision see. One should understand that the seer is explained in the same way as vision. The seer of vision is an explicator of an energy instantiating point to point, and that seer per point is a conjecture of mind. There is no seer without vision, or with vision or without. If the seer is non-existent, how will there be what is to be seen and vision? At this point, Candrakirti quotes the following verse from Nagarjuna's Ratnavari. Just as the production of the sun is, son as father-son, is said to depend on the mother and father, just so the production of consciousness is said to depend on vision and rupa, nama rupa, form. Rupa here refers to what is visible, color and shape, and not to the category of the physical in the doctrine of the five skandhas. So you see, it's not the glass that we thingify, that we see, the glass of water, the cup of water. It's the manufacture and the conditions that create the glass and give it name and form that arise out of conditions, endure and decay. But that is not vision, and that is not seeing the vision, the occurrence of the mind to create a category, a thingifying of what is occurring point to point, does not manifest that which is being constructed. Does that make sense? Due to the non-existence of vision and what is to be seen, the four consisting of consciousness and so on, do not exist. How then will appropriation and so on come to be? One should know that hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and the inner sense are explained by means of vision, as well as indeed the hearer what is heard. The same reasoning may be applied to the other five sense faculties. The result will be that the conclusion of the verse 8 extends to all possible experience. Nagarjuna will follow the same strategy elsewhere, focusing on one example and then claiming that the argument generalizes to an entire class. The analysis of the skandhas. This is the fourth chapter. I think before we get into it, 4.1, assertion. Rupa is not distinct from its cause. Its cause is not distinct from rupa. So, the idea of form, and we'll end on that note. If you can argue ad nauseum that form is a conditioned thing, then whatever you claim is form is not form. It's the result of, it's a thingifying of an instance of form. Because form itself is an ongoing point-to-point manifestation. It's constructed like a chair, right? We didn't go walking through the forest and go, look at that branch, it makes a chair. No, it doesn't. Right? A chair is constructed. So, purely logically, to say the chair exists is a false statement. It's something we tell ourselves in samsara to permanentize chair. But the fact of the matter is that the chair is not a thing in itself. It is a constructed thing that is decaying and will no longer be here, therefore never really existed as chair empirically. It's a temporary condition we experience, whether we sit in it or not. And maybe that's the best example of this argumentation. It's not a great denial of the experience of samsara. Rather, it's an intellectual peering of the operation of the mind and how it holds us beholden to samsara as though this life were something we must cling to lest we lose it. This is the whole game here. Nagarjuna isn't trying to tell you that everything you see, hear, taste, feel, and think about is an illusion. No, but the illusion does exist that these things are, in and of themselves, permanent. The mechanism that convinces us that we live with permanent things is our source of anxiety and stress. And he's trying to decouple those from our conscious minds. Excuse me. This is easily lost in these scholarly translations, and I don't want to fault the authors. They're doing what they're doing, just like all the other academics are doing. And they're demonstrating the wonder and the beauty of Nagarjuna's logic and what he's trying to say in these things. But I never have read anything where they take the next Buddhist step. Why all this negation? Why all this deciphering in minutia? And you know how I detest the word why, because it's a great rabbit hole. But if you're going to commit to the rabbit hole, then answer. And I am providing for you the answer. Why all of this minutia? negation, argumentation about the nature of reality, because we are stubborn creatures. We'll hear and listen to all of this talk, and we'll go, yeah, well, I'm going to go sit in my recliner and watch my shows and eat my sandwich. We'll get, not that we're stupid, although, of course, that, but even if you fully understand the reasons and the logic and the beauty of the refutations, you'll go on permanentizing everything, thingifying everything. Why? Because that's what we're constructed from. That's what samsara is. Samsara is this great big engine of holding on to. Being. But all Buddhism is saying is, fine, you're being. But understand that the be part of that is the illusion. You're much more ing than you are be. In grammatical terms, you're a verb, not a noun. Nothing is a noun. Everything is verb. Everything is constantly in a process of becoming and going away, arising, decaying, dissolution. Everything is this process. It may appear to your mind that things are persisting over time, but that is not the case, because even, as Nagarjuna is pointing out, in that persistence of your samsaric mind, it is point. The perception you give of form, line, is actually an illusion. What you have is an incredible series of points. So the line never exists. It is something you construct in your mind. So if you work that until you really, really get it, you can then use your sense of vision and see with a very different mind. All the same things, but as very ephemeral, like brilliantly constructed virtual reality. It's a constructed thing. Now, admittedly, this is a quite painful way to get to your Buddha mind, let alone course as a bodhisattva while maintaining that Buddha mind. Right? That's a ton of work. Fortunately, 2,500 years later, you and I simply chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo to our mandala representing our mirror of our Gohonzon, which understands the temporal, the fascinating movie that we're constructing. And appreciating the frames of that movie, we course through life with the Buddha way, Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. We can get to that vision center, that ninth consciousness, without having to become masters of argumentation. Argumentation to convince our samsaric mind of its illusory state. We can just switch it off. Myoho Renge Kyo. I thought I was going to have to do all this stuff. So remember, we're studying. It gives us greater appreciation for what it is to be able to chant Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. And the nature, the profundity, the amazing shift that this practice provides us so simply. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Hai. Okay? With that, I will, I can't seem to make them any shorter, folks. but I don't hear any of you clamoring for me to do so. However, I hope that you can take the time to listen to the whole thing, because as any of you who have, you know that my mind and my description and my elucidations often don't come out fully until the latter part of these videos. I think that's as it should be anyway. So, thank you for being here once again. Take care of your health. Be kind. Like, share, subscribe. My patrons. Namo Myoho Renge Kyo. Let's do this. And I'll see you in the next one, okay? Take care.